Greetings, fellow men. Servus Männer. It's Red Pill Germany again. So what have we seen during the last year, during the last month, during the last week specifically? We have seen a mainstream media that is full of vitriolic hate against conservative people, against white people. We have seen a Hollywood entertainment elite that is fully against the president of the United States, Donald Trump, and while he was a candidate, they were completely against him. Now that he is elected, we see violent riots, which is basically nothing else than domestic terrorism. And there are some people out there, maybe younger people, maybe people who haven't thought about stuff so much yet, they're still asking the question, what the hell is wrong with those people? What is going on? I can't understand that. And I'm not a cultist or anything, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but nevertheless, I think it is very, very easy to understand what is actually going on there. And I'm not the first to say that, and it is not rocket science at all. It is very easy to understand. It is just that politics is downstream from culture. That is all you have to know, actually. So the cultural Marxists have understood that, and so they have been working to undermine culture and all the institutions of society, like education and the media, in order to bombard us with nothing else but the same message over and over again. And we have a generation now who doesn't know another narrative anymore. They only know one story. White, straight men are evil. That is the only story they know when they watch movies or when they listen to the news. Even it goes to the point where history, when it is taught in school and in universities, is actually almost rewritten, I would say. For example, when we covered the Crusades in history, there was no mention of an earlier Islamic expansion and of attempts of Muslims to basically conquer Europe. There was no mention of that in the context of the Crusades, that the Crusades were basically just a counter movement. It was just not mentioned. And this is a sort of manipulation that is omnipresent these days. And while in my generation there were still tiny traces of a counter narrative, now for these millennials there is no counter narrative anymore. This is literally all they have ever heard. And it is very easy to see what is propaganda when it stares you right in the face, like when we see these billboards from the First World War, for example. When you Google that stuff, the British billboards that showed Germans as these ugly, well, okay, we are ugly kind of, but these evil, dark, tyrannic, orc-like people who just attack savagely other nations, right? And the French did that also. And Germans did that with the Jews, for example. These caricatures that you all know too well, I think. This is very easy to see that this is outright propaganda, and it is the intended purpose to vilify someone, to dehumanize somebody, to make him an appropriate target for attacks or for later action against them, to justify that in a way, to declare an act of aggression kind of preemptively as self-defense, I would say. It is very obvious in these cases. However, when it is so omnipresent, even in a state of peace, in the normal everyday life in society, all over, in movies, in school, in university, in church even, even the churches tell the story now of how Europeans are still, even though there is no colonialism anymore, how we still kind of oppress Africa and how we exploit Africans, just by doing trade with them. And if we don't do trade with them, then we're even more evil, right? So the first time that I actually realized how this brainwashing works and all these knee-jerk reactions you see from lesser minds, basically, from conditioned individuals that have been brainwashed, was during my religious instruction in school, actually. So during a couple of years, my teacher was actually a Catholic monk who was coming to our school dressed as a monk in the black robe of his order. And he was actually a very educated, very smart, very liberal individual, actually. And he was actually the first one who got me interested in philosophy. He told us about Aristotle, Plato, St. Augustine, and also the existentialists, for example. But what I saw was that he was viciously attacked all the time, especially from the girls, but also from left-wing mangina boys who just wanted to score with the girls. He was always attacked viciously. They even spat on him during class and yelled at him, and crazy behavior. Almost like, I mean, the only thing they didn't do was actually throw feces at him, you know? It was so vicious. It was so crazy. And at that time, I was maybe like 15 or 16, and at that time, I knew nothing about the world. And I thought, why are they doing that? I mean, they call him a Nazi, they call him a fascist, but he never did or said anything that would justify this kind of characterization. So for me, this didn't compute at all. And it is very similar when now conservative minded but kind of blue pilled people would ask the question, why are these people rioting? Why are they so afraid of Donald Trump? What is wrong with them, you know? Or what is wrong with these Black Lives Matter activists, with these SJWs? Why are they so aggressive? Why are they so vitriolic, so hateful? Yeah, I also didn't understand this when I was 16, how people could react so negatively to a Catholic monk who didn't do anything bad, who just tried to teach us about philosophy and religion. And by the way, I should explain, one could opt out of religious instruction. So there was secular instruction on like philosophy or ethics. So the people were not forced to have Catholic religious instruction in school. The people who were there were they're basically on their free will. There was an alternative course parallel to our religious course, right? So just for clarification. So, but back then, the brainwashing or the campaigning against the church was very prominent. I mean, I think this started mostly in the 70s throughout the West, and people were very anti-church, very anti-Catholic at that time. Has to do a lot with abortion and the pill and all these things, right? So the Catholic Church was the big enemy back then. It changed a little bit now. People don't take it serious. I mean, this battle is fought, this battle is over. But back then, the Roman Catholic Church was still the boogeyman, right? So in the same way that these SJWs nowadays are angry and hateful just towards white men, back then it was the Catholic Church. And now I really understand why that is. Back then I didn't understand because it wasn't logical. Now, of course, I understand that logic has nothing to do with it. It is just culture. So just look at all the movies, for example. Quentin Tarantino movies, for example. It is always evil white men who do these horrible acts, you know, and then some oppressed group, like women in Kill Bill, for example, or then black people, or then Jews, take revenge on those evil white men who committed these horrendous crimes before, right? So first you vilify a group, you dehumanize them by showing them as utterly evil, irredeemable, you know, like almost like the basket of deplorables, right? You characterize them as such, and then later you have basically an orgy of violence porn, you know, where they are chopped into pieces and atomized and blown up and tortured, and you know, no act of violence is too much. You know, you can do whatever you want with them because they're the ultimate evil. You know, so it becomes a virtue. Torturing them, killing them, harming them becomes a virtuous act. You know, because they are the ultimate evil. They're fucking Nazis. And this is what people did during war times, as I said before, when they wanted to get otherwise really good, honest Christians to shoot other good, honest Christians, right? What did they do? They painted the other party, the other nation, the other belief or whatever. They painted them as oppressing them, as harming them, as exploiting them, as trying to attack them, or doing these outrageous crimes, right? Committing these outrageous crimes. You dehumanize them, and then later you are justified in taking revenge or protecting yourself. So I know that to many of you guys this has been clear already, of course, but I just want to emphasize it again. Politics is downstream from culture. First, you change the culture of a people, and then the politics will follow. And if you want the politics to become extreme, if you want people to do exactly as you say, if you want people to go against each other, if you want people to be violent and aggressive and antisocial, you would present them with the image or with the narrative of another group oppressing them, keeping them down, violating them, harassing them, endangering them, basically. And if they grew up never knowing anything but this one narrative, then they will basically behave like trained dogs, you know. They will show just a knee-jerk, automatic, instinctual reaction. A Pavlovian reaction, basically. And this is exactly what we see now, where no matter how logical or how rational you build your arguments, no matter how peaceful and cultured you are, all that these brainwashed zombies will see is that you're a fucking white man. And no matter what you say, you will just be a white guy, and therefore you're evil. And anything you say and anything you do is evil. They don't even listen. And this is why it doesn't matter if you debunk the wage gap for the 50,000th time, or if you tell people that Obama did actually very similar stuff to what Trump is doing now. And you can show all those video clips that show how Hillary Clinton and other Democrats used to talk about protecting our borders and how bad illegal immigration is and all that stuff. Yeah, you can do that. Feel free to do that. It doesn't matter, because they have been conditioned to see white men as evil. And it goes even further than that. Even if a gay person, you know, or a black person or a woman would say the same things, they have been programmed to view certain narratives as white male narratives, or certain political agendas, or certain convictions, certain philosophies, you know. And if a black person would say that thing, then it doesn't even help, because that's then just internalized self-hatred, or internalized racism, internalized misogyny, or being an Uncle Tom or whatnot, you know. So it's not just if a white man says it, it goes even further. Certain ideas, such as equality of opportunity or family values, for example, all that stuff, they connect already with being white. So even if a non-white person, or a woman, or a gay person like Milo now, even if they say that, still it doesn't help. They are so conditioned that at the moment, or even in the mid to long term, you cannot reach them. Maybe some of them, I mean, I don't want to call people irredeemable, you know, but you cannot reach them now. You have to give them time, you know, and you have to change the culture. And maybe the people who are 25 now and are chimping out in the streets or at Berkeley University, maybe if they're 35 or 40, maybe then they understand. But right now, you have zero chances to reach them with the best thought out argument, or with data, or with science, or anything. You cannot reason with these people. You just have to contain them. That's all you can do, and hope that eventually, maybe in a decade or two, they will change, or that the next generation will be better. But for the moment, there is really nothing we can do. We have to live with these people, but we can change culture. And that means that we need our own media, We need to stop watching blockbuster Hollywood movies. We need to stop watching TV, stop reading the mainstream media, maybe start calling it fake news and just citing Breitbart. I don't know. But we have to really build our own thing. We need our own culture. Otherwise, we will always be stuck, and we will always be administered this poison. This social political poison that they pump into our brains. So in short, if you are still wondering how young people can react so irrational and so hateful and so aggressively, yeah, this is what Quentin Tarantino movies and all this exploitation pornography does with a young generation who has never heard a counter narrative and who is brainwashed even in school and even in university with the same message over and over again. So this is something we really have to consider, and even though a lot of people know this already, we really have to repeat that and really internalize this message and really be aware of that every day, that what you see and what you hear in mainstream culture has nothing but one purpose, and that is turn you into a zombie like these Women's March idiots or these Black Lives Matter zombies, right? So I guess that was enough ranting for one day. Enjoy the rest of the day. As always, Servus, Kameraden.